Okay, so before anybody says I'm out to bash Joe Biden or the Democrats, let's just start with a very famous quote from Joe Biden.
I am very willing to let the American public judge my physical and mental my physical as well as my mental fitness, and to make a judgment about who I am.
So as I start every podcast, please either like, donate, give it a thumbs up or something. It will help the podcast. I'm not necessarily looking for donations, but if you have the option to click on a like button or a thumbs up button or even subscribe, it would definitely help out. So let's get started. This isn't going to be a long podcast. Just watching the news this morning, and before I get pigeonholed into one specific news agency and people saying I only listen to one news, I usually watch news on 4 or 5 different channels just to try to extrapolate the truth. I'm not pro any news station, although it is kind of clear when certain newscasters, not to mention any names, but certain newscasters, you can just see the hate and disdain in their faces when they're talking about current events, how the government is dealing with situations, how they're making things better, and how they try to poke holes in certain situations. Now, again, I am not picking sides, but I don't see how anybody could find fault with lowering gas prices or lowering the cost of groceries. A lot of the news agencies they've stopped picking on Gavin Newsom, and I don't know why, because he just totally turned California inside out. I mean, the Walmarts are closing, the gas stations are closing. I don't think they're closing at the rate or the numbers that news is putting out there that they are, but there's definitely been a lot of closures. So, and yes, I have another cold, just deal with it. But what I wanted to talk about today was some of the stuff going on with ICE. And before I go any further, both of the shootings recently by ICE officers that killed people, I feel bad for their families. I'm sorry for their families, but let's come to terms with this situation. If they would have stayed home and not been out protesting, they'd still be alive. But the fact that they need to be out there waving their signs, blocking ICE agents, running into ICE agents, doing everything they can to stop what ICE agents are trying to accomplish to make the country safer, those people would still be alive today. They chose their own fate. Everyone says you can't choose fate, but that's a crock of shit. They chose their fate that morning when they got out of bed. One of them chose it with a minivan, the other one chose it with a loaded weapon. Also start watching or paying better attention to the news. If you watch 2 or 3 different channels, you'll see the same video clip with certain things added or omitted. That's the beauty of AI. That's getting that good you can't even tell anymore. Which ones are true, I don't know. I just try to go with the facts, not with what all the pictures show or all the videos show. So I'm not getting where this country's going right now. I really thought there were a lot more intelligent people out there, be it Democrat or Republican. I thought there were more intelligent people out there, and clearly there isn't. What I wanted to title this, and what you're going to see it what I wanted to title it was Democrats are fucking idiots, but I digress. We're going to title this one the immigration situation, a brief history and why it is a problem. That sounds a lot more college level, right? I want to start this with a statement, and then I'm going to go back to this statement later. But hear me out. During his 8 years in office, 2009 to 2016 or something like that, the Barack Obama administration deported more than 3 million people. Obama was a Democrat. Keep this in mind. Well, we should probably go back to the very beginning. Sometime around the mid-1920s, the U.S. government realized the amount of illegal immigrants flooding into the country. And this was by illegal means. It was starting to get out of control. Therefore, the government enacted the Immigration Act of 1924. The condensed version of the act limited the immigration visas, or the condensed version is the immigration. Oh God, I gotta wake up. One more time. The condensed version of this act is that the act limited the immigration visas to 2% of the national census. This was the first major reform since 1890. Sorry, that was bumpy. That was really bad. I just did some I just did the fact checking for what I was talking about, and I had to type over. I had some of the things wrong myself, and I had to type over. So this is a rough pass. The next thing that came along was the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, the Hart-Celler Act, signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson. Oh, this one was bad. It established a new neutral preference system based on a family reunification and skilled labor act, significantly increasing immigration from Asia, and to the contrary of the initial projections, it was designed to diversify the U.S. population. I know this sounds good, but nope. It was the act that started this whole tragedy. It should be noted that LBJ was a Democrat. The next major reform was the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986, signed by President Reagan. Now, this was aimed to get all this crap under control. Lots more penalties were imposed on employers hiring unauthorized workers. We granted the legal status to nearly 3 million immigrants who entered prior to 1982, though. I mean, it wasn't unfair. It established a mandatory I-9 employment verification system, which was very bold at the time, but it became mandated. It really got a lot of resistance from the left wing in Congress, but Reagan pushed through and got it done. Reagan was the kind of president who he couldn't turn a blind eye to the national issues that were going on and that truly hurt the nation. He did what had to be done and what he could be done at the time. He didn't just open the door and let them flood in. It should be noted that Ronald Reagan was a Republican. You're going to be seeing a trend here. The next big step was the Illegal Immigration Reform Act and Immigration Responsibility Act of 1996. This allowed officials to quickly remove certain aliens without a hearing. Surprisingly, this was done during Bill Clinton's term, and Bill Clinton was a Democrat. Which brings us to the present. The next biggest act would have been the Laken-Riley Act, signed on January 29, 25. This was signed by President Donald Trump, mandating the detention of immigrants charged with or convicted of specific crimes. This action, along with executive orders, focuses on the increasing removals and reduction of illegal border crossings. Thank God for Donald Trump. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of the person, but I am a fan of the politician. Now, things could go a lot smoother. the one of the biggest problems is people that claim to be Democrats. I'd say the overall majority of them are truly idiots. They can be talked into anything. They watch the liberal news agencies like CNN and MSNBC, and they form opinions without doing research. They're forming their opinions simply on opinions. They're not smart enough to do the research. This is part of the problem with the country today. They follow the path of least resistance, being, oh, well, she's on the news, she said it, it must be true. No, it's ridiculous to do that. We have become so weak-minded and so ignorant to facts that we're willing to just grab hold of the first thing said and run with it. I'd like to give a couple shout-outs to the people that I'm talking about. These are the blue news agencies, the far-left news agencies. They get their facts from whatever is they extrapolate their facts from whatever is going to get them the most news coverage and the most thumbs up in the ratings. Most of these factless reporting, God, I don't even want to call them professional news anchors, but these people, I think, all came from a gene pool created by a bunch of helmet-wearing, special in air quotes, kindergartners in the middle of finger painting class. Yep, Rachel Maddow, I'm talking about you, girl. I can very, very easily sum up Rachel Maddow in 3 bullet points. 1, that god-awful lesbian haircut. 2, she tries to sound and present herself as a man. And 3, she doesn't fact-check shit or know when to shut up. She is a rainbow flag-waving Democrat, and I bet she wears men's shoes and men's underwear. Don Lemon is another one. He got kicked off of CNN and then decided to incite a riot and charge into a church. Yep, another Democrat. I could go on for days about Don Lemon, but the guy got kicked off of CNN. He had his 15 minutes of fame, and now he's trying to regain it, kind of like that whole Britney Spears thing. Acting crazy on TV to try to get attention. It's really bad when they stoop to this level. The last one I want to talk about is Caitlin Collins. She kind of has my respect because she is simply an apex predator. I mean, that woman is lethal. However, in my mind, it all boils down to the fact that she's trying to tear down the country with lies and disinformation. If I'm completely honest, I think the only thing I enjoy more than watching Sunday Night Football is watching Carolyn Levitt tear Caitlin Collins apart like a lion and a baby rabbit. You got to respect Caitlin Collins because she just keeps coming back with more lies and more lies and more ridiculous questions and more ridiculous questions. But I really think Caroline Levitt's pimp slapping hand is getting weak and sore from just kicking the crap out of Caitlin Collins all the time. So I keep wondering why Barack Obama was able to deport so many illegal aliens, 3 million of them or more. It could have been more. I think I'm being conservative with that. But how is it possible that he could deport all those people and nobody? Oh, wait a minute. He was a Democrat. That's right. So the news isn't going to put a bad spin on him. The news isn't even going to say anything if he says not to say anything. That's why I say, and I always tell everyone, you need to check all news agencies and extrapolate your own version of the truth. I just don't get it. It's sad. The country's in bad shape. It really is. The way that these Democrats just believe whatever's told to them. You got paid protesters out there that don't even know what they're protesting for. but they'll protest. And the stupid ones admit they're being paid. I'd be willing to bet they signed some kind of contract saying that they won't talk to reporters. But every group of people involving more than two people is going to have one member that wants to get on camera, that wants to say something in the national television. And some of these protesters are just so stupid. Then you got the college kids. Let's look at the college kids that are protesting, and how many times, even with CNN, even with the far left news, when they'd ask kids questions about these college kids, questions about why they're out protesting and all, they couldn't give a good answer. They didn't even know what they were protesting. They couldn't tell you where Palestine sat on the map. They couldn't tell you where, what the last thing Ronald Reagan said was, or what the last thing Trump said was. All they know is they hate them, and they don't know why they hate them. We see the news articles about jihadists and them indoctrinating children at a very young age and brainwashing them at a very young age. I got news for you, man. It's happening in the States. It's what the Democrats are doing to our kids in schools now. We're not allowed to pray in schools anymore. We're not allowed to, have a Bible in school anymore. They want that clear separation. But I think it's part of the problem. I honestly think it's part of the problem with the country today. They ended the corporal punishment and they took the Bible away. I got SWATs in school. I was a hellraiser in school. But I turned out okay. At least I think I did. I don't understand. I don't understand any of it. I think to sum this up, I'm just going to say Democrats are idiots. I don't really have anything else to add to it. I just want to get a couple of facts out there about who was raising the most hell for the Democrats and the times of the different acts by Congress and the White House as far as immigrants go, because I've been hearing a lot of wrong numbers, even on the news. And please note that I also pointed out that Clinton did something good. He was a Democrat and he did something good. So I don't think it's all Democrats. I'm going to think it's more like 99.99695 of the Democrats. But there's some good Democrats out there trying to do some good. Just educate yourself before you make a statement. Educate yourself so you can make clear decisions and judgments. I'm not saying Republicans are perfect by any means. But, you got purple-haired old women that look like Jimmy Durante in Congress. Senators, a senator that dyes her hair purple. She really does look like Jimmy Durante, and if you don't know who that is, pull up a picture of him. Who was that? That one? What the hell's her name? The Democrat that and the senator or the Democrat that sat there and called the governor of Texas Hot Wheels, and she got away with it somehow. I mean, the man's in a wheelchair. And she goes and calls them Hot Wheels and tries to sound all ghetto. And she went to all the finishing schools and the finest colleges and all this stuff. But now all of a sudden she ate a ghetto pill and she talks like she's street and she wants to pick on someone in a wheelchair. And somehow this is allowed to go on. Jeffries, the minority leader, this guy's a nutbag. This guy is a total nutbag. He's trying to incite riots. This is all Democrats. This is all Democrats and their doings. So just do your research before you form any judgments. And don't take my word for it. I mean, use it maybe to steer you in the right direction to look at the facts, but don't form opinions and don't generate facts that you're going to spew on other people without fact checking. I have fact checked everything that I said. Could I be wrong? Yeah, maybe some of the things I said were wrong, but I did fact check it before I opened my mouth. I encourage everyone to do the same. Just watch your six, check your facts, and peace out.